already planning for these things. And obviously I'm encouraging self-managed landlords to do the same. The sooner you can start to plan and prepare for these things, the better the outcome, I suspect. So just to set a bit of context, what is or what was the Renters Reform Bill, or what were the aims of it? The publicly stated aims, or the political aims, were to enhance tenant rights and protections. It's absolutely not about protecting landlords. It is entirely about protecting tenants. It was to ensure fair rents and fair living conditions for tenants. Now, ironically, I do think some of these changes perversely will have the opposite effect and may well drive rent levels up for some tenants. It was intended to encourage longer-term tenancies. Again, like many things in life, unintended consequences. I think there are some unintended consequences of some of these changes that actually could have the exact opposite effects and could make tenancies shorter or less secure for tenants, and that really wasn't the aim of the legislation. But as we say quite often, the stated aims of legislation, sadly, are not what turns out in practicality. And it was also said that it was meant to address homelessness and housing insecurity, which I will say, all of those four things, as a long-standing landlord and a letting agent, I have absolutely no problem with those as stated political aims. Am I convinced some of these changes will achieve those things? Not entirely. We'll go through those as we go, but yeah, not entirely. I think mixed bag really. So the Renters' Rights Bill was very similar to the former Conservative government's Renters' Reform Bill, although I have to say the earlier Renters' Reform Bill was probably better thought out, more considered. I think it had more time and was actually more balanced. And it's interesting that it was previously Renters' Reform and then it became Renters' Rights. It became much more renter-led. And as landlords, we're really going to feel that, because this is a renter's piece of policy. It definitely doesn't make landlords or letting agents' life any easier. So it's largely aimed at strengthening renters' rights, absolutely not to assist landlords in any way, shape or form. Largely, the changes are fine if you are a landlord who is prepared, and that means preparing now, in my opinion. So largely the changes are fine. They're not fine, of course, for those who don't comply. The fines and prosecutions through this legislation, there are plenty already that landlords can suffer, but they're beefed up, they're strengthened by this legislation. So minor or first offences can carry a £7,000 civil penalty, and serious or repeated goes anywhere up to £40,000. Now, it is fair to say as landlords, there are lots of places and errors that we can already be fined or prosecuted for, but this legislation really strengthens that and gives local authorities increased and more powers to act upon these things. So the summary of tonight is we must be prepared. I will say, as a letting agent, and I'm lucky enough to have a lettings manager and a whole team behind me, but for us, this will be a major change. We know we have a lot of work to do over the next 4 months. Almost everything we know as letting agents will change. How we initiate tenancies, how we manage tenancies, particularly how tenancies are ended. If there's a problem and we need to take court action, that whole process is completely turned on its head. So it's a whole new world. I am and will, as we go through the process, we're trying to draw out some opportunities. There are some opportunities that landlords can draw from this process. But I think only landlords who are prepared, well-informed, well-educated, and who act on this will reap the benefit, really. In part, what we're doing is making the best of what's being presented. So, the current legal position. Bill was introduced to Parliament in September 2024, although we have been talking about this in the wider sense for probably 3 to 5 years. And actually, if nothing else, as a letting agent, the certainty of the bill passing royal assent in October and now becoming law, and us now having dates and deadlines, that actually is quite helpful to us. because we've had many years of uncertainty, and I think, in fairness, that uncertainty's had a negative impact on the industry because other improvements and other initiatives haven't happened whilst we've been somewhat in limbo, frankly. So where are we? Phase 1 is May 2026, which really is the big bang, for want of a better word. So it's commencement date for many of the main reforms, which will include ending fixed-term tenancies, banning of Section 21, which was traditionally known as no-fault eviction. There's new rules around rent increases that are very significant, and this is a big area that we need to plan for now. So there's some of the major changes that are going to immediately hit in the next 5 to 6 months that we need to plan and prepare for. Further out in the longer term, they're disclosed as phases 2 and 3. They actually run through 2026, 27, 28, and up to 2030. But there are further surprises to come for us landlords, and they include things like the National Landlord Database, the PRS Ombudsman for landlords. PRS Ombudsman is something that as letting agents we currently have to do, but that would extend to self-managing landlords. There'd be the expansion of the Decent Home Standards. AWAB's law is a damp and mould piece of legislation, and also EPC minimum standards, which they're saying now might be 2030. So there's a whole range of further things to come over the next 5 years, hence why tonight I'm focusing on phase 1, which is the more immediate changes and actions that we need to take for May of next year. And I'll be honest, there are plenty of them. There's plenty to do, so we will focus there. I would encourage anyone watching to, if you can, stay till the end of the event. We do have some material around phases 2 and 3 and the further things that are going to happen. That'll be a little bonus offer that Chrissy and I have to share later.